Okay, so welcome back to Project Pro. I hope you all are doing well. So let's get started. So in the last lecture, we have seen all about the introduction to Azure Data Factory, where we discuss what is Azure Data Factory, its key feature, the benefits of ADF, as well as we have understood the architecture and the different components of Azure Data Factory and how they work together to provide you a complete end-to-end solution. So this lecture is all about talking about data movement and transformation. So here we'll see and explore different data integration scenarios as well as understand some data movement activities in Azure Data Factory as well as perform some data transformation activities. And we will create the pipeline for data movement as well as the transformation. So this is going to be very fun. So without wasting any time, let's get into it. Okay, so in the previous lecture, we have already set it up our Azure Data Factory with a free TL subscription. So the first thing you need to do is create a Azure Data Factory resource. So now let's jump onto the Azure portal and let's get started. Okay, so you have already have some idea about the Azure portal and how we can create the resources. So to create a resource, just click on create a resource here. And now you can directly search for the Azure Data Factory. And here you got the Azure Data Factory. So you are just going to click on create and here you have to choose the subscription. So I only got the free trial subscription, so I'll just select that. And you need to create a resource group. So we are going to create a new resource group where all our resources and services will belong to. So we'll just create new and you have to give some meaningful name to our resource group. So I am going to give it as COVID-reporting tutorial-2023. I hope this is not taken. Okay. So this name is unique and the region which is closest to me is Central India. So I'll click that and we need to choose the version 2 because version 1 is already deprecated. So it makes sense to choose version 2 only. So we'll go to the next, which is Git configuration. So we will do the Git configuration later because for this tutorial we need to keep it very simple. So just click later, click on networking. So here you need to keep it as default because we should be able to connect it through the public endpoint. So we'll keep it as it is, and in the tags let's keep it simple only. So just get the tags and review plus create. So it will just review and create your resources on the way. Okay, so it will take some 1 or 2 minutes to complete. It is currently now running the final validation and the validation has passed. So just create the resource. So the deployment is in progress. Okay, so as you can see our deployment has been completed. So we can just click on go to resource and here is our resource name. And see, you can get all the things like monitoring your resource and all the activity logs you can access from here, and also the access control, which is very important. So it will determine who should be able to access your ADF resource. That you can do that from here. So you can access this from the home also, but we need to pin this resource. So we will just pin it and create a new dashboard for our it. So we will give the name as COVID_reporting. That's it. We will create the dashboard and pin it so that we can track all the resources from our dashboard only. So we'll just click on the dashboard and as you can see, our COVID reporting dashboard has our ADF resource running. So if you just click on it, here you can see all the monitoring stuff like pipeline runs, the activity runs, and you can monitor your resource like how many pipelines have succeeded, how many got failed and all those stuff, as well as the CPU utilization and the runtime memory. And also you can pin this as well to our dashboard. You can also go to the tutorials where you will be lead to the Microsoft Learn website where you can learn more about Azure Data Factory, as well as you can go to the template galleries where you find different templates for Azure Data Factory. So as you can see, there are different templates available for your ADF like bulk copy from a database. Then you have the template for inserting SAP ODP data to the sink and all other stuff. So there are so many templates available, so you can go through it. You can choose the specific one which fits your requirements. And after that, we also have like training modules and all this stuff. And we also have the Azure Data Factory Studio where you can link this resource and do the development. Okay, so once we created our ADF resource, we need to create a Azure storage account. So without wasting any time, let's jump on to the Azure portal and start creating our storage account. So for storage account, the process will be similar. You just need to go to the Azure Marketplace and search for storage account. Here it comes. And here you just need to click on the storage account and hit on create. Okay, so here we need to give some basic information like the subscription. So I have only the free trial subscription. So if you have like free tier or pay as you go, whatever it is, you need to select that option, and in the resource group you need to select our resource group. So we have already created COVID reporting underscore RG for our tutorial. And also you need to give the storage account name, so you need to make sure that the storage account name is meaningful as well as unique across all the storage accounts that are available. So we are going to give like COVID reporting tutorial 2023. So as it is suggested that the field can contain only lowercase letters as well as the numbers, and the name must be between 3 and 24 characters. So if we remove this and give only 23, I think it is getting approved. So in the region, I have chosen the Asia Pacific Central India, which is the closest region to me, and the performance should be standard. So this standard performance will give you the SD, which will be a little bit slower than the premium version, where you will get the solid state drives which are way more faster for data transfer activities. But we don't need that in this tutorial, so we'll keep it simple and click on standard. And in the redundancy we need the less redundant, so we need like locally redundant storage, which is like the lowest cost option which is available for Azure storage account. So as it is saying that it is a low cost option with basic protection against the server rack and the drive failures. And since we are dealing with non-critical scenarios here and we are going to only learn it, so we will choose the locally redundant storage. And if you go to advanced, let's leave it as it is. So the networking also we will keep it default. So just go to the last one, which is the review. So once you review all this stuff, it is running the final validation now. So let it complete and we will be good to go and create our storage account. Okay, so the validation is completed. Click on create. So it will take some 1 or 2 minutes for the initial deployment. Okay, so deployment is in progress right now. So let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so there you go. The deployment has been completed. So what you're going to do is you just need to go to the resource now. So this is your resource. So if you go below, you can see all the details and configuration we have chosen while creating our storage account. So the first thing is, let's pin this plate to the dashboard. So we have the COVID reporting dashboard already saved. So just click on pin. And there you go, it is pinned right now. So if you go to the dashboard, we have the storage account as well as the data factory resource available in our dashboard. So the next step would be we need to create a Azure Data Lake Gen 2 resource so that we can start working on our project. Okay, so creating the Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage account is pretty similar for creating the Azure storage account that we have seen earlier. So we need to follow the similar kind of approach, just we need to enable the hierarchical namespace, which makes the Gen 2 account different from the conventional storage Azure storage account. So let's get back to the Azure portal and create our Azure Data Lake Gen 2 account. Okay, so as you can see, we got the two resources in our dashboard. So just go to the Azure and create a resource, and in the marketplace we just need to select again the storage account similarly. So in the storage account, the process will be similar. So just click on it and create a resource. So here just select the subscription. So I am selecting the free trial, and also the resource group, we need to select the similar resource group, and after that the storage account name. So the same rules applies here. So just give like COVID reporting tutorial, and I'll add the data lake DL to define that this is a data lake Gen 2 storage account. And you just need to click on the standard because we don't need any heavy work here. And also in the redundancy, let's select the lowest available, which is like the way more cheapest available. So just go to the advanced, and in advanced just small change you need to make. So you need to click on to the enable hierarchical namespace. So this means that it is going to create a data lake storage Gen 2 endpoint, which will enable the file and directory semantics, which accelerates the big data analytic workloads. So we need to do that. So we will just click the enable hierarchical namespace, and after that we'll keep it all as a default. Just go to the networking, then data protection, all things will be common as the previous storage account, and just go to the review. So it is running the final validation, and that's it. You just need to hit create. So it will just going to deploy your resources in your subscription. It is in progress now, And there you go, the deployment is completed. So just go to the resource now, and here you can see you can do all the stuff using the access control to give the access to your resources, as well as the data migration tool to transfer the data from source to sink, as well as a storage browser. You can browse your storage account matrix. So again, we are going to pin this to our dashboard. So just pin it and pin it to the existing dashboard, which is COVID reporting. So just click on pin. Okay, it is pinned now. So in the dashboard, we now have the data lake storage account, then we have the data factory resource, as well as the Azure storage account present. So the next step is you need to create a Azure SQL database. Okay, so this is the time for creating your Azure SQL database. That is a mandatory step because we are going to use it in our architecture. So we are going to discuss that in the upcoming topic. But first, let's create the database now. So just head back to the Azure portal and create our SQL database. Okay, so in the Azure portal, we already have a 3 resources present. So just go to the marketplace now, create a resource and search in the marketplace for SQL database. And here you're going to choose the SQL database here and click on create. Okay, so once that is done, this is a bit of longer process. So here you need to choose the free trial as well as the resource group as COVID reporting _RG, which is our resource group for this project. And here we need to enter the database name. So I'll choose like COVID tutorial as well as -db. That's it. Okay, so it is meeting the criteria, and here we need to create a new server because we don't have any servers available. So just create a new server here. So just give the name to our server. So I'll give it COVID-db. I hope. Okay, so it is the specific name is already in use. So we will just give as COVID tutorial-db, and there you go. This is the unique name which is present in Azure. And also we are going to choose the authentication method. So it is having like 3 options. The first one is use only Azure AD authentication. Then we have the use both SQL and Azure AD authentication, but we don't have the Azure AD authentication account. We just only have the Azure account, so we will stick to the simpler one, which is like SQL authentication. So here we need to server admin login details. So just we have the ADM. You can give anything here and give the password. Okay, so it worked for me. Rewrite the password. Okay, so it is confirmed. Click on OK. So it will create the database server. So you have to select the database server now, and here it is the option for choosing if you want to use SQL Elastic Pool, but we don't have the SQL Elastic Pool, so just click on no. And here we have the compute plus storage. So it is standardly giving the 10 DTUs as well as the 250 gigs of storage. So we don't need that. So just click on configure, and here we need to choose the lowest one and very cost effective for our project. So we are going to choose like the basic one for less demanding workloads, because since we are only in the learning phase, we just need to choose that. And here we can only select, like we can give it 2, but let's skip it 1 gigs. So we are going to give the basic version, and we are the data maximum data size could be like the 1 gigs, but you can keep like 2 gigs if you are practicing and have a lot of data to work with. But for time being, I'll just select 1 gigs and click on apply. Okay, so here the backup storage redundancy would be like the locally redundant, because we don't need the geo redundant backup storage. So this will come into picture when we have like any outages in the area, or like any natural disaster happens, so that this features will back up your data and replicate it across the area. But for this tutorial we need to keep it simple, so just click the locally one. So just go to the networking now. So the connectivity method should be the public endpoint, because we need to access our resources via the public endpoint. And also in the firewall rules, since it should be able to communicate with other Azure services, you need to click on yes. So we are allowing Azure services and other resources to access this server. And also we need to add the current IP address so that we can access it without any issues, and we will not face any firewall issues down the line. And here other connection policies will be default, so the other thing will be the default additional settings. And here just click on the tags. We don't need any tags here, and click on review and create. So it is currently reviewing, so just click on create. Okay, so that deployment will take some time. Okay, so as you can see, the deployment is completed. So just go to the resource now. So this is our SQL database. So this is the pricing tier that we have chosen. This is like our server name. So these details will be necessary when we are going to use our Azure database with the external tools. So here we can see the pricing tier as the basic. So if you click on it, so as you can see, we have chosen the 1 gigs that you can anytime increase or decrease, and also the backup storage redundancy. And here you can see all the statistics like the database utilization as well as the DTU percentage. So if you just go to the query editor now, here we can query our data which is present in the SQL database. So here just give the password. So we'll try hitting up some query. So just click on OK, and here we can submit our query. So let's run a simple query like select star from sys dot all object to fetch all the objects present in this database. And if you run this query, so there you go, you can see all the results and all the objects which are present in your SQL database. So this is not the best way to interact with your SQL database. You can use the Azure Data Studio to connect to your Azure resources like the SQL database and query the data and do the analytics if you are like using SQL a lot much. But for this tutorial, let's keep it simple and only access the Azure database using the Azure portal. Okay, so now we are going to start our ingestion, and we are going to ingest the population data from the Europe region. So in our solution architect, what we're going to do is we are going to have the population data which is uploaded into the Azure Blob storage, and after that we are going to ingest it into the Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2 account which we have created. So we have the Azure storage account as well as the Gen 2 account ready in our resource group, and we are going to all do that using the Azure Data Factory. So we are going to also talk about the copy activity which we are going to use using the Azure Data Factory to copy the data from Azure Blob storage to the Data Lake storage Gen 2 account, as well as we are going to introduce the linked services as well as the data set for our pipeline, and we are going to build the Azure Data Factory pipeline using these tools. And we are going to also discuss about the validation activity, then the if condition, the web activity, and the delete activity. And at last, we are going to discuss how to utilize triggers to automate our pipeline and all the workloads. So we are going to create a trigger so that our pipeline will be automated as per the orchestration we have defined. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the copy activity. So this copy activity will help us copy our population data, population by age data from the Azure Blob storage to the Azure Data Lake. So let's first understand what is the data set we are dealing with. So in the copy activity, we are going to ingest the population by age for all the Europe region into the data lake, which supports the machine learning models for predicting the increased mortality rates in COVID-19, because during the COVID-19, the mortality rates was the biggest issue in the world. So let's look at the data first so that we'll get a clear understanding of what we are dealing with. Okay, so as you can see, we got the population by age.tsv file. Here we have like the age range. So here we have the region wise age. So here we have the range from 0 to 14 for all the geo codes as well as the time and the years. As you can see, we got the data for all the years from 2008 all the way to the 2019, which is like the latest year which we got from this data set. So we are going to copy this data from the storage blob storage to the Azure Gen 2 data lake. Okay, so our main goal here is we need to create a container named population where we'll be having our file which is population by age.tsv.gz. So the format here is different from the target file. So we need the target file in the TSV and not the GZ. So you need to extract that file along with the copy activity. So our source would be the storage account blob storage, and the target would be the Azure Data Lake storage account. So I have sourced this data from this website. So I'll be giving the link to this description below so that you can go through it and start working on this copy activity. So let's talk about the copy activity and their building blocks now. So as you can see, these are like the building blocks for our copy activity. So we have like the Azure Blob storage account, and we have the source file which is like a zip TSV file. So if you notice, the format is different from the source to the target file. this is a zip file, and this is only a tsv file. But the copy activity will need the source dataset and sinks dataset and all the properties of the file we need to define while creating the dataset, so that the copy activity will communicate with our source file and just copy that to our sink, which is the Azure Data Lake storage. But in order to make the connection, there comes the link services in the picture. So the link services will have all the properties and the network connection details which connects our blob storage to the source dataset. And similarly, for copying the data, we will be having another link service to connect the sync dataset to our Azure Data Lake storage account. But the copy activity itself is not executable, so that we will need the pipeline. So we are going to define a pipeline which does all this stuff. So without wasting any time, let's jump on the practical approach. Okay, to start with the copy activity from the Azure Blob Storage, we need to create the containers on both the Data Lake storage side as well as the storage account. So without wasting any time, let's go back to the Azure portal, and in the Azure portal, just go to all the resources, and here you will find all the resources which are available. So as you can see, we got the Data Factory as well as the SQL Server, database, and we got the two storage accounts. So the DL will be the Data Lake storage account, and this 23 one will be our storage account. So just click on the storage account. So once you click on to the storage account, so just click on to the storage browser, and in storage browser you don't have any blob containers available. So that's why the number of containers are 0. So just click on the blob container and click on add container here. So here we will give it as a population, and we just need the public access level as private because we don't want to share this container with anyone. So just create it. Okay, so we have successfully created a storage account. So just go into that and just click on upload here. So to upload, you need to browse your files from the file system here and click on the population by age tsv.gz file and upload it. Okay, so this is been uploaded. So you need to create a container named raw in your Data Lake storage account as well. So you just click on to the Data Lake storage, and here as well you don't have any blob containers. So just create a blob container here with the name raw and just click on create, and also the public access level will be private. So just create it. Okay, so you have all the prerequisites ready, and now we can head over to the copy activity as well as creating the pipeline, and we will also talk about the link services. Okay, so the first step would be we need to create a link services in our Azure Data Factory. After that, we'll create a dataset and the pipeline. So we are going to go with this order now. So we need to create first the two link services, one for the Azure Blob Storage and the second one for the Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So just head back to our Azure portal and start working. Okay, so in your resources, we got our storage accounts, one for the Data Lake storage and this one for the blob storage. And we also have the blob containers present. So just go to the Data Factory resource, and here is the overview. So in the overview, you need to click on to the launch with Studio. So it will migrate to the new tab with the Azure Data Factory. So here we can create all the link services and all the development stuff for your Azure Data Factory. Okay. So as you can see, this is like a home page for your Azure Data Factory. So here there is author, then we have the monitor, manage, and the learning center. So you just need to go to the manage, which is like the fourth icon, and here we have the link services. But in the link services, we don't have anything. So we need to create two link services, one for the Gen 2 account and one for the storage account. So just click on create link service, and here are the options. So in the Azure, we will have like the blob storage. So just click on the blob storage, and here you gotta go name the link service. So we'll give it ls as a link service, and we have the COVID reporting, and here we need to choose the connection via the integration runtime. So we need to click on to the auto resolve integration, and in the authentication type we have the different ways, but here we are going to select the account keys. We are going to discuss other options as well in the upcoming lectures. And in the Azure subscription, you need to click on to the free trial, which is already have for all the resources. And in the storage account name, we have the two storage accounts present. So the first one we are going to create for our data lake blob storage account. So which is like the COVID reporting tutorial 23, and here we can just click on to the test connection and the connection is successful. So we'll just create it and there you go. The first one is created. And similarly, we need to create a second link service for our Gen 2 account. So just click on new. So here you have the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. You just click on continue. Again, we are going to give like ls COVID reporting Gen 2. And now we are going to select account key as authentication type, and the Azure subscription is free trial. And the storage account name will be the DL, which is Data Lake Storage account. And here we'll just click the test connection and create our link services. So this step is completed. We got two link services present. So the next step would be we need to create the dataset as well as the pipeline. Okay, so once we have all our link services ready, we just need to create the dataset for source as well as the sink. So here we need to go to the author, which is like a pencil mark here. So in author we don't have anything here. So in the dataset we just need to create a dataset. So if we just click on it and click on new dataset, here are the options, and in Azure you will find the option for Azure Blob Storage. So we need to create a dataset for our already uploaded file. So just click on continue, and here we need to choose the format. So there are different formats which are supported like Avro, binary, we have the delimited text, Parquet, XML and so on. So our file is a tab comma separated, which is a TSV format. So we are going to select a delimited text here and click on continue. And here you need to set the properties like the name of our dataset. So we will give as ts underscore population by age. That's it. The link services, we have the link services here, which is like ls COVID reporting. So just click on that, and here you need to select the path. So you need to give the container name, the directory name as well as the file name, but you have the option to browse it. So just click on browse. So we have the population here, and in population we have the population by age.tsv.gz. So just click on it and select, and as you can see we need to click the first row as a header because the first row of our file is a header. And here if you need to import the schema, we will call it as none for now and click on OK. Okay, so here are the link services as well as the connection details like our dataset. So here the compression type is like a gzip, so as our file name has the .gz in its extension. So just click on that. The compression level will be the optimal, and our delimiter is the tab delimiter. So just click on the tab because our file is a tab delimiter, and everything you need to keep it as default. So if everything looks good, you just click on the preview data to preview our data, and as you can see the data is correctly displayed. So we have like the age group and the region for all the years from 2008 to 2019. So just close it now for now, and now our one data set, which is the source data set, is ready. So we need to create another data set for our target. So just click on new data set again, and here you need to select the Azure and the Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So just click on continue. Again we have for target as a TSV, which is a delimited text, continue, and here you need to give as dataset Gen 2 population by age, and you need to select the link service here. So we have the Gen 2 link service already created, and here since we don't have any file in the path, here you need to give as the file name. So our target file name will be like population underscore by underscore age dot tsv. So this will be our file path for our dataset, but we don't have the file there, but we need to define it while creating our dataset. And here the first row will be the header, and we will click on none here and just click on OK. So here also in the file path we can give the container as raw, and there you go, everything looks fine. So we have like the two data lakes created, but you can see this yellow label with 2 on it. So which means that our created datasets are not yet published. So when you are creating the link services in the manage, it will be automatically reflected in your resource group. But to able to publish this dataset, you need to click on to the publish all so that it will get reflected, And as you can see, these are the pending changes which we have done just now. So just click on publish, and it is now deploying the two resources and the publishing is completed. That's it. So here we have the dataset ready as well as the link services which are providing the connection details to our datasets. So the next step would be we need to create a pipeline, and in pipeline we can create the copy activity which copies the data from the source, which is like our blob storage, and it will dump that data to the data lake gen 2 account. Okay, so once you have all the datasets ready, let's create the pipeline to create a copy activity. So in the pipeline we don't have anything, so just we will click on new pipeline here. So in the new pipeline you have all the activities which are present. So we are going to in move and transfer, we got the copied data. So this is just like a playground where we can drag and drop our activities and orchestrate our different tasks. So here in the properties of our pipeline, let's give the name here. So we will give like pl underscore copy population data, and in activities you need to do the copy activity here. So just drag and drop the copy activity here. Okay, so here we have the copy activity. So in the copy activity, let's give it a name. Here also you will give the name as copy population data, and you can give the description, and here is the timeout. So we don't need this much timeout, we'll keep the timeout as 5 minutes here. So if our copy activity task go longer than the 5 minutes, then it will throw the timeout error. And after the timeout error or anything happens in the pipeline, you can give the retries. So here by default the retries would be 0. So if you give the 2 retries, so if the copy data activity will fail, then it will retry 2 times for this activity with the timeout of 5 minutes. But here let's keep it 0 because we don't have any complex activities present. And in the retry interval in seconds we got the 30 seconds. So let's keep it that only. And the secure output and the secure input features are for the sensitive data. So if you have the sensitive data present in your copied data activity, then you can select these options to secure your data and not get pasted into the logs. But our data is not that sensitive, so we'll just give it as default. So in the next tab we have the source and the sink. So in the source, just select the source. So we got the population by age. Sorry, I just given it as a name, so you can ignore it. You can give it by age only. So we got this source data set, and we can give it everything as a default here. And in sync we can select the gen 2 data set, which is population by age as a target. So we got source and sync present, and we can give everything as default. So once this is set, you can just validate this. Okay, so the validation result is no errors were found. So thank God there are no errors, and after validation you can just debug the pipeline. So here you can see the output of our copy activity once we debug it, and as you can see it got succeeded. So you can see like the input and the output of our copy activity and see the details here. So we will click on the details to get the more information about the execution. So if we just expand it, as you can see, we have the Azure Blob Storage which is in Central India region, and we got the copy activity succeeded. So we have copied the data from the blob storage to the Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and as you can see the data read is like 5.986 KB and the read data return is 26 KB. So you may ask, why is that? Because this difference is because this file is a compressed file. It was a gz file which was compressed, and this is an uncompressed file. So that's why the size difference is there. The file is read is 1, file return is 1, so everything looks good. It took nearly 7 seconds to complete. So it has all the start time, it got the use DIUs as well as the parallel copies. So since our pipeline is succeeded, so this way you can debug your pipeline and you can see what error you got and try to resolve it. So we will just close it, and we will be also excited to know what data we have copied and where it is. So to visualize it, we can go back to our data lake storage. So in the data lake storage, which is like this COVID reporting tutorial DL, and in the storage browser we have the blob containers present which we created. So in the blob containers we have the raw data file and in the raw, as you can see, we got our file present, which is like a population underscore by age.tsv. So this is not a .gz file. So this is like the uncompressed version of the file which is present in the blob storage. So if you click on it, so as you can see, this is the details about this file, and the file size is 25.46 kbs. So what we have achieved here is we have created a Azure Data Factory pipeline to copy the data from one storage account, which is a blob storage account, to our Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage account. And also we have debug and validated it and published all the changes into our Azure Data Factory. Okay, so this lecture was all about data movement and the transformation, where we have understood the data movement activities in Azure Data Factory, and we have created different resources. So we have created a storage account, the Azure Blob storage account, then we have created the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 account, then we created the SQL database to query your data, and also we have created our Azure Data Factory pipeline, which includes all the dataset as well as the linked services for our sink and the source. And after that, we have validated it and deployed our pipeline into our Azure Data Factory. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. So the next lecture will release on 26th of June, and in the third lecture we are going to discuss about the data orchestration and the control flow. So we're going to have an introductory lecture on the control flow activities and the implementation of conditional and the loop activities in Azure Data Factory. And also we will discuss about managing the dependencies and also scheduling and error handling in Azure Data Factory. So this is going to be very fun and interesting. So if you find any difficulties, you can let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you at the earliest. Thanks for watching.